Hey guys, Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films back again with Doctor Who. Last time around we had The Long Game. What was that one about?
Well, after they picked up, I can't remember his name.
Adam.
They went to a place where Earth should have been 100 years further in its future, but apparently it was being controlled by some alien. And basically, they let Adam roam on his own while the Doctor was trying to fix the whole thing, and Adam got sucked up into the whole politics of it. Essentially had something implanted in his head, and he was going to, once he returned home, he wasn't going to tell the Doctor and Rose, and once he returned home he was going to be a millionaire, which of course was the whole thing about what the alien was doing. So at the end they just dropped him off and said, "You're on your own."
Yeah.
That's pretty much what I remember from it. It's been a weird week.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, there was the whole controlling the news and everything, and controlling the Fourth Bountiful Human Empire, and Adam basically taking the entire human history over the past 198,000 years and taking that back to 2012. So the Doctor promptly dropped him off with a giant door in his head that now he can't do anything about. So just gotta hope nobody snaps, or maybe he can wear a headband from now on. Maybe that'll keep it closed. We don't know. But yeah, it was definitely an interesting episode, especially on rewatch. Just understanding it more. So
yeah, again, very foresighted of the Doctor Who team, that was a creative team putting this together, because I don't remember in 2005, the idea of the media controlling the narrative. We usually still had relatively reliable news anchors here in the United States, but literally, especially since 2015, we've gotten into this gatekeeper mentality where certain entities that supposedly report the news are actually controlling what we do and do not see, and that's kind of kind of a preview of that in that episode.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely shows that Doctor Who hasn't lost its edge.
Yeah.
When not even just predicting, but with coming up with these sci-fi stories that will be topical later, yeah, which all good sci-fi should do. So yeah, it was a very interesting episode. And today we're moving on to what are we on? Episode 8. We're getting up there in these episodes. We're gonna run out of this season pretty soon. I say soon; it'll be like a month and a half or so. So,
well, I have to say I will miss Christopher Eccleston. I'm truly enjoying him.
Yeah, definitely. Well, there are the audio dramas if you want to. There's two different versions. There's the Ninth Doctor audio dramas that don't feature Christopher Eccleston. They just feature someone doing their really best Christopher Eccleston impression, because that was before he came back. And then now we have the ones where he's back and he's actually voicing the Ninth Doctor again. So you could listen to those if you.
I'm not a fan of the audios.
Maybe if you retired, maybe you'd have the time to do that. So I don't know.
If and when I retire, I'm hoping I'll do some writing again.
Yeah. There may be. I would be surprised if there weren't any Ninth Doctor books. That would make sense. At the very least, I'm sure there's comic books, but there's got to be a couple books, I would think. So, I don't know. They'll tell us in the comments. So, yeah. You got anything else?
I got nothing.
That is one of those short intro days, so we might as well just jump right into episode 8.
Peter Allen Tyler, my dad. The most wonderful man in the world. Born 15th September 1954.
Oh, good Lord, he's younger than me.
Come here, Rose. Could we go and see my dad when he was still alive?
Where's this come from all of a sudden?
Alright then, if we can't, if it goes against the laws of time or something, then never mind, just leave it.
No, I can do anything. I'm just more worried about you.
I want to see him.
Your wish is my command. But be careful what you wish for.
in the latest season of Doctor Who, they brought in a new companion, and they make a whole big thing about when she was born. And the first time they said it, yeah, she was born Christmas Day 2004. I died a little inside. so I get what you're feeling with him.
Yeah, that's. I mean, it's understandable about me, but somebody who's younger than you.
Yeah.
I, Peter Allen Tyler, take you, Jacqueline, Suzette, Anita.
I'll just carry on. It's good enough for Lady Di.
Thought it'd be all sort of grim and stormy. It's just an ordinary day.
Her past is another country. 1987 is just the Isle of Wight.
Can I try again?
Groundhog Day.
Rose, no!
I'm Rose.
That's a coincidence. It's my daughter's name.
That's a great name. Good choice. Well done.
Well, this won't backfire in any way.
The entire future is changing.
Where else would you put the milk? Mind you, there's always a windowsill outside.
We used to do that in college. We weren't allowed to have fridges in our dorms, so we put stuff outside to keep it cold at night.
I did it again. I picked another stupid ape. I should have known. It's not about showing you the universe. It never is. It's about the universe doing something for you.
So it's okay when you go to other times and you save people's lives, but not when it's me saving my dad.
I know what I'm doing. You don't.
So before I thought it was just the timeline changing, but this seems to be somebody watching.
Couples have rows all the time.
We're not a couple. Why does everyone think we're a couple? I think he left me.
What, pretty girl like you? If I was going out with you.
Stop! Right there.
I'm just saying.
I know what you're saying, and we're not going there. At no point are we going anywhere near there. You aren't even aware that there exists. I don't even want to think about there, and believe me, neither do you. There, for you, is like the Bermuda Triangle.
Blimey, you know how to flatter a bloke.
It's like when you have a dream where you have powers and then they don't work, but you still try to make it believe anyway.
Is that a phone?
Yeah.
You're picking up on Sherlock Holmes' cell phone. Okay.
Is that a car? Same one as before.
Man's a lunatic.
You bring home cut-price detergents, tonic water, Betamax tapes, and none of it works. I'm drowning in your rubbish.
Should have gone with VHS.
Okay.
I don't know why something about that shot in particular. It's just alright, as soon as we go this way, bail.
Get in the church!
This isn't a good thing. Got demons!
Hey.
They were way more stealthy in the park.
Oh, there goes your old dad.
Ugh.
Oh, and the preacher.
Go and check the other doors. Move!
What's happening? What are they? What are
There's
they?
been an accident in time, a wound in time. They're like bacteria taking advantage.
What do you mean time? What are you jabbering on about time?
Oh, I might have known you'd argue. Jackie, I'm sick of you.
How do you know my name?
I haven't got
I've never
time
met
for
you
this.
in my life.
No, and you never will unless I sort this out. Now, if you don't mind, I've waited a long time to say this. Jackie Tyler, do as I say. Go and check the doors.
Yes, sir.
I should have done that ages ago.
My dad was out.
Come here. I need you.
That's the very first phone call. Alexander Graham Bell. I don't think the telephone's going to be much use. But someone must
The
have
wrong
called the
Watson.
police.
Is this because?
I'm not gonna say I told you so,
Is this my
but
fault?
There's smoke coming up from the city, but no sirens. I don't think it's just us. I think these things are all over the place. Maybe the whole world.
and then there's that guy.
You are. You're my Rose. You're my Rose grown up.
It's gonna leave a mark.
Eh,
How did all this get started?
Outside the beatbox club. 2 a.m.
Street corner. I'd lost my purse, didn't have money for a taxi.
I took her home.
Then what? Asked her for a date.
Wrote his number on the back of my hand.
Never got rid of her since. My dad said.
And I know we're not important.
Who said you're not important? I've travelled to all sorts of places, done things you couldn't even imagine, but you two. Street corner, 2 a.m, in a taxi home. I've never had a life like that. Yes, I'll try and save you.
So, if this mate of yours isn't your boyfriend, then I have to say I'm glad, because being your dad and all, I think it's a bit old for you.
you have no idea.
No, I did have.
Mickey?
Do you know him?
Aw, little Mickey.
You can't tell her.
Why?
I mean, I really don't want you to tell her.
I mean, it's not going to help.
Where I come from, Jackie doesn't know how to work the timer on the video recorder.
I showed her that last week. Point taken.
Eh,
You're not going to bring about the end of the world, are you? Are you?
well, he's trying.
I can't do anything right, can I?
Since you ask, no. So, don't touch the baby.
I'm not stupid.
You could have fooled me.
All right. I'm sorry.
She
I
couldn't have
wasn't really
known.
going to leave you on your own.
Well, yeah.
I know.
And there's nothing I can do to stop them. There used to be laws stopping this kind of thing from happening. My people would have stopped this.
Would they?
Oh, God.
Have you got something hot?
It's the TARDIS key.
You get serious, you gotta take the jacket off.
You took us for picnics in the country every Saturday. You never let us down. You were there for us all the time. Someone I could really rely on.
That's not me.
He's smarter than you give him credit for.
Right, no one touches that key. Have you got that? Don't touch it. Anyone touches that key, it'll be, well, zap. Just leave it be and everything will be fine. We'll get out of here, all of us. Stuart, Sarah, you're gonna get married, just like I said.
This is the weirdest sermon I've ever seen.
When time gets sorted out.
Everybody here forgets what happened. And don't worry. The thing that you change will stay changed.
You mean I'll still be alive? Though I'm meant to be dead. This is Rose.
Rose? How sick is that? She's given my daughter a second-hand name. How many are there? She called them all Rose.
Oh, for God's sake, look, it's the same Rose.
Rose, no!
But he was about to chuck that baby across the church. Ugh. Well, that is just the end of the world then.
The car that should have killed me, love. See ya. The doctor worked it out way back, but he tried to protect me. Still, he's not in charge anymore. I am. Jackie, look at her. She's ours.
God.
It's only the second weirdest thing that's happened all day.
Go to him. Quick.
For real this time.
The driver was just a kid. He stopped. He waited for the police. It wasn't his fault. For some reason, Pete just ran out. People say there was this girl. And she sat with Pete while he was dying. She held his hand.
Peter Allen Tyler, my dad, the most wonderful man in the world, died the 7th of November, 1987.
Alrighty. Ugh. Let's do Back to the Future, but it's sad now.
Yeah.
Oh.
That is very well written and very well acted.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, alrighty.
It's interesting. I expected that somehow he had to get back to the place where he was originally hit. But because it happened where it did, it changed the story slightly.
Yeah.
But Jackie was telling her the new story, and yeah, it was actually a little bit better because then Little Rose and Jackie knew that there was somebody there with him when he died. So
yeah. Well, it's an interesting thing that the car kept showing up there. It kept rounding the corner and disappearing again. So, going into the logic or mechanics of how time gets broken, you don't really need to go into the weeds on it, but it's kind of an interesting thing thinking about, there was always an out. Time will always give a way of correcting it. It's just, do you take advantage of that? And we don't know what the Doctor's plan was going to be once he got the TARDIS back. We don't know what honestly would have happened once the Reapers had devoured all of time, basically. So all we have is that, Pete was able to correct time. He did change it a bit, but he corrected it to what it was mainly supposed to be. So,
well, it's interesting. This is the second story in this season where somebody literally had to sacrifice themselves in order to save everything. The young girl from the mortuary in the Dickens story realized that, she'd had these unusual feelings all of her life, and then she began to understand that the only way that she could literally save the world, to solve the problem, was to sacrifice herself to stop the people, the aliens, from coming through the gap there. And, it takes him a while to figure it out. Once he finds out that Rose is his daughter, she's from the future, you again, the great acting on his part. You can literally see the wheels start to turn where he's going. Now, wait a minute. If all this is happening, why? And it all comes back to that moment, and he finally realizes, I wasn't supposed to survive. She wasn't supposed to knock me out of the way. I was supposed to die there, and that's when he says, the only way to do this is, I mean, this is a Tony Stark moment in Endgame. There's only one solution to this. You can go through 4 billion possibilities, but there's only one solution.
Yeah. So yeah, it is an interesting thing as well, and even thinking about like the Reapers, because I'll just go ahead and say the Reapers never show up again, which is interesting, and there will be plenty of episodes where you're like, wait, shouldn't they come in? Like, shouldn't they come in? Time is kind of messing up, but they never really come back in. But they do kind of explain, at least, that the Reapers are not part of time, basically. Like, they are sort of a bacteria, is how the Doctor describes them, is that they are just entities, and they take advantage of this weakness in time, basically. Yeah. So it's very interesting, and like, I don't know, I like this episode, and it kind of fits with this season of, there are a lot more like darker, like, I don't know, almost like kind of quieter stories in this season compared to where we'll go, and I think that may just be because as we continue, the show will just keep getting more money. Yeah. So they can do these grander things, and that's all great. But there is something especially about this and a couple more of the earlier seasons where it's like, they keep that sort of darker, almost gothic atmosphere. I mean, and even this one, it's a bright-ish, it's kind of overcast, bright as the UK can be day.
Especially in November.
Yeah, they're in this church. It's like, but even still, like, it has this sort of creeping horror element to it, even though the Reapers, as an effect, are not spectacular. But I think they get the job done of just the monsters flying around. So,
and I'll be honest, I don't recall anything in classic Doctor Who that reaches that level of sadness. A couple of times, even when the Doctor had to sacrifice himself, like when the third Doctor had to essentially, confront the Spider Queen or whatever she was. But, that's a heartbreaking story.
Yeah. I think, too, because it's like classic Doctor Who will have its sad moments and certainly its gothic moments. But this definitely feels like, because it stretched the whole episode. Like, from the beginning, you have this sort of somber introduction of, learning about Pete Tyler and how he died, and slowly getting, and you've got the score to help that, and getting the idea of, we're going to go back and try to help him. And then just that little bit, every so often, there's just this, like, sting of music as things, it isn't quite right, Yeah. It's not quite right, Rose can't go out and be with him, so they try again, which is incredibly dangerous, and it ends up messing everything up. So it's like, it's definitely also in the music, where it's like there's this eerie sort of horror around it. Over, again, we made the joke of it's Back to the Future, but it's sad now. But Back to the Future also didn't have this kind of heavy incident. It was just that Marty happened to go back in time and happened to accidentally get involved with how his parents met. But here, it's that they're going back to a specific point where Rose's father ended up dying. So yeah. For the other stuff, it's interesting now, because when I first watched this, and the Doctor has the line, I did it again, I picked another stupid ape. And I thought, well, that's an interesting thing. I wonder if in classic Doctor Who there was anything like that. And now that I've watched all of classic Doctor Who, I'm not exactly sure where he gets that line. Like the whole thing of, it's never about showing you the universe. It's about the universe doing something for you. And I don't know, like I feel like that isn't really like gone into in classic Doctor Who, but it's still an interesting line that, well, I guess there is one example of a very stupid ape that he took. It was Adam, very immediately before this episode. So he's probably looking at this, and yeah, I can see, just coming after everything that happened with Adam, it would make sense that he's even more disappointed now in Rose. So
yeah. Again, the few people that the Doctor has disagreed with over the years, Tegan, what was his name? The guy with the mechanoids. The one that he ended up leaving on the planet of savages to help them.
Oh, Stephen.
There were a couple that the Doctor, and even Harry, quite honestly, for a little bit there.
Yeah.
There were those that he disagreed with, that, his personality wouldn't allow him to, soften up to allow them their, human mistakes. But yeah, this is a much deeper, much darker territory that we're going into here.
Yeah, so... and yeah, just combining it with Adam, just because he does say, like, I told you this thing goes in space, you said no. I said time machine, then you said yes. And she says, like, this wasn't some grand plan that she had. This was just in the moment. She just acted on impulse. It's just that impulse might have ruined everything, Yeah. And he even wasn't expecting the Reapers here. Like, he was looking at this like, well, time has changed. This is probably going to mess up history from here on, but it's what's done is done now. So he just takes the key and he's expecting to go back to the TARDIS. It's only then that he realizes, oh no, it's not just that time has changed, it's that time is broken now. Yeah. So and it's also interesting to see, because you have the sort of juxtaposition of the beginning where Jackie's talking about Pete and, telling Rose all these great things. And then you go back and you see none of that was really the case. They do a similar thing. They do a similar thing on The Sopranos, where Tony Soprano's mother talks about his late father and says, it's like, oh, he was a saint. And every so often Tony's like, really? I never really heard you say that when he was alive.
Yeah.
And they show a flashback and it's like, the two of them were not really that good together. Yeah. And so it's a similar thing here where it's just, from the onset, Jackie is just berating him for everything. They get into this huge fight right there. On top of the fact that, yes, he does show up with a 19-year-old girl, and that's a little suspicious, but yeah, it's just like, just seeing, if anything, like, just watching, like, Rose's mind collapse in that moment, just like, why is this happening? And she's trying, on top of the fact that she's just shocked seeing her mother in 1987, and, she's trying to process this, she's trying to get words out, but also her entire worldview about her parents is sort of crumbling down. Yeah. So
they kind of did the same thing on American television with The Big Bang Theory and Young Sheldon, because all through The Big Bang Theory, Sheldon talked about how awful his father was, and yet in the 7 years that the Young Sheldon series was on, his dad was actually a pretty nice guy. And then he ultimately attributes that to the fact that his father died suddenly, which made his mother somewhat bitter, and his memories of his father were influenced by her bitterness. So
yeah, so as for the other stuff, I didn't write down like a ton of specifics with this. I did like the conversation with the bride and groom, where it's like, oh, I know we're not important, and he just said, well, who told you that? What about you is not important, and even if maybe in the grand scheme of things they aren't, or maybe they are, or who knows. Either way, he looks at the two of them and it's like, well, either way, you're people that need to be saved, so I'm going to do my best to do that.
Yeah.
So
now I'll give a very brief story that but in, I guess this would have been 1981. I was in the resident company of the Oklahoma Theater Center. It was my first year there. I had been there the previous year as a guest artist, a guest actor. But I was going to be directing later in the second season there. And back then we had what were called cattle calls, where literally actors showed up. They were given like a 5-minute audition slot. They did a monologue, and all the directors then decided whether or not to call them back. Well, I wasn't directing till the spring, and this was auditioning like in September or October. So, watching. Turns out, number 125, there was this, what I thought, beautiful young woman, came in, did a very nice audition, and I didn't see any of the other directors from the fall calling her back, but I thought, I'm going to be directing something in the spring, so I want to go talk to her. So, when they didn't call her back, I went down into the lobby, and just before she left, I stopped her and said, "Hey, my name is Richard. I would like you to come and audition for my show in the spring." And she said, "All right, I'll do that." And it was literally years later, after we were married, that your mother said her very first audition, she was kind of disappointed because she didn't think she was going to get called back. But she said this young man with dark hair and a beard came down to the lobby and invited me to audition for his show in the spring. And it was only then that we actually met at that audition, and we didn't really know who each other was. I did cast her in the show, ended up casting her in several other shows. 5 years later, we started dating, got married in 1986, and then, you and your brother came along. So all of this happened in the very same sort of way.
Yeah, so, and I hear that of like, there's this one YouTube channel, God, this was 10 years ago when this video came out, but they one of them was talking about how his parents met, and it's just like, his dad was from Israel, came over with like $1,000 and a suitcase, and he was trying to go through New York, the subway system, with very broken English, and because he's trying to get somewhere, because he's gonna have to cross the country to go meet with his friend, and he was just like, he just went up to a woman and was like, "Do you know the way to the A train?" And she was like, "Yeah, I'm going to that train too." And they did that, and he was just so amazed by her, and he was just like, "We're going to lunch," and then that was that, and she gave her his phone number, and that just went forward. So it's that is those little moments, and he talks about that in that video where he's like, if one of them had like bent down to pick up a nickel, they could have missed each other, and then all of that. But it is sort of the thing of, you have this idea of fate and everything. It's like, but it's really only fate when you look backwards. It's like, it could have been that, you didn't go to her, or they didn't meet in the subway, but it's like, but that's only looking back. In the day-to-day, you're just kind of going about your day-to-day. So
the other part of that story is that ultimately your mother ended up working at one of the suburban high schools, and one of my good friends was working with her and became friends with her, and her friend didn't know that she and I had accidentally met. So when I was auditioning my show, my friend Susan went to your mother and said, "Hey, listen, I think you should come and audition." And when she did, that's when she realized that we had met before. So,
yeah. And it's interesting. They don't, unless I missed it, they didn't really go into how Pete and Jackie met.
Yeah.
Like that could have also been an interesting thing, because they talk about that with the bride and groom. But now, like we don't really hear that with Pete and Jackie. Like, how did this happen? I like also that they go back. Because, it's not just, I forgot about this, they don't just go back to when he died, but they did also go back to when Pete and Jackie got married, and they were there, and, and he's kind of fumbling a little bit with her name, and, the doctor's just got his big smile. He's entertained, but it's an interesting thing just kind of seeing that,
Yeah.
And, I guess you wouldn't really count this as a historical episode as we call them. It is, but it's like I feel like there are times with Doctor Who where it's like I feel like Doctor Who forgets that it's a time travel show. Like they go off and they do all this sci-fi stuff, and that's great, you know, and they'll go to the future, and you can do all that, and that's great. But I feel like first and foremost, you should have more time travel stories. Yeah. So I would at least count this, even though, yes, obviously, in terms of being filmed in 2005, 1987 is not very different as a historical time.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's not really historical figures, but I would still say this is a good just time travel episode for this show. So, yeah. I don't know if there's anything else. I guess we pretty much covered anything. You got anything else?
I got nothing.
All right. Well, next up, if I remember correctly, I believe is called The Empty Child.
I think that's what it said.
Yeah, I think it's The Empty Child. So we've got. I was about to say we're gonna get into some good stuff, as if the past 8 episodes hasn't been that. So, but that's the thing about this series. It's like, again, all the rest of the series are good, but this one is particularly really, really good. Yeah. So, yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. With all of that being said, we're Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films, and we will see you guys next time. Take care. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. There's a bunch of links on screen if you want to go click around any of those. There's a playlist with all of our Doctor Who modern reactions, as well as another playlist for all of our classic reactions if you want to go check those out. There's also a subscribe button and a Patreon button on screen, as well as other links in the description if you want to go check out any of those. See you guys later.